Exposed, how 2 years of heartbreak transformed her into a fierce force of inspiration. In the heart of a small Midwestern town, Sarah's life unraveled in ways she never imagined. For 2 years, heartbreak had been her constant companion, twisting like a knife with every whisper of the wind. The sudden departure of her husband left her, a 34-year-old single mother, stranded in a storm of responsibilities. With 2 spirited children to care for, she stood tall, yet at times, the weight felt unbearable. But Sarah was no stranger to resilience. She embodied it, night after night, pouring her heart into homemade mac and cheese, filling their modest dining room with laughter, her children's voices rising like the warm aroma wafting through their little home. Through it all, the whispers of neighbors stung like bees. "Can't cut it," they murmured when they thought she couldn't hear. But Sarah fought against the narrative. When the kids tugged at her apron, demanding attention or, better yet, a bedtime story, she plastered a smile on her face. Inside, her heart raced, the fears lurking in the shadows wanted to creep out, but she wouldn't let them. Her world was a marathon race, with the finish line always just out of reach. Then, the accident shattered the fragile bubble of solace she had built around her children. It started with the sound of laughter, the innocent chaos of play, a sudden fall, and then, silence, a heartbeat stilled for a moment too long. Her youngest, Lucy, lay still, racked with pain. In those excruciating seconds, Sarah's heart, already limping, felt as if it would shatter. The emergency room flooded with emotion, fear, worry, and an overwhelming hate for the judgments she had endured. The community rallied around her, launching a fundraiser to help cover the mounting medical bills. Initially, Sarah felt the flicker of gratitude, but it swiftly transformed into an unbearable mix of pride and vulnerability. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as kindness washed over her in waves, a trusted friend shared her struggles and fears with others, drawing lines in the small-town gossip pool. Isolation bled into her veins. Betrayal twisted like thorns around her heart. Laughter turned to shadows as she questioned whether her strength could withstand this onslaught of judgment and misunderstanding. Yet, standing amid the aroma of comforting meals, everything changed. The pain crystallized into a resolve. Sarah realized she could either back down, cloaked in shame, or rise up like a phoenix. Electric determination coursed through her veins as the echo of a heartbeat became a rallying cry for change. As she prepared for the town hall meeting, her heart raced. Standing before the mic, her pulse synced with the hush of the audience, their gazes locked onto her. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, an unexpected figure from her past walked in, a reminder of hope, or perhaps another storm cloud looming on the horizon. Would she seize the moment to advocate for her dignity, or would fear silence her? The very air crackled with anticipation as Sarah prepared to unveil the truth, for both her and others like her. The man who walked in was Jason, Sarah's high school crush, the one she had lost touch with as life had swept her into a whirlwind of marriage and responsibility. His presence felt like a ghost from her past, a mix of warmth and anxiety flooding her veins. Memories of stolen glances and heart-skipped moments rushed back, stirring a mix of nostalgia and fear. What was he doing here? Did he know about her struggles? As he settled into a seat, she could feel the weight of his gaze. Her heart thundered in her chest, drowning out the murmur of the crowd. For a fleeting moment, it felt like high school all over again, the promise of youthful dreams tangled with the reality of her present. She cleared her throat, the microphone amplifying the sound into the stillness, an electric tension hanging in the air. Sarah thought about her journey, the heartbreak, the laughter, the tears, and above all, the love she had for her children. She had come so far from the girl she once was, but would these townsfolk see that? "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice shaky but steadying. "It's been a rough couple of years for me, but they've shown me what I'm really made of, what we're all made of. A few heads nodded. She could see the flicker of empathy in their eyes. Encouraged, she pressed on. When my husband left, I thought life had thrown me into the depths of despair. I didn't just lose a partner. I lost the vision of a life I had built. But I learned I had a choice to lay down in defeat or stand up and fight. Applause erupted from the audience, a surge of warmth igniting her spirit. This was it. This was her moment to share not just her story but to voice the fears and struggles of every single parent, every person misunderstood because of their circumstances. I'm not just fighting for myself. I'm fighting for those of you who feel alone, who battle isolation or judgment. Her gaze fell on Jason, and she saw a flicker of recognition in his expression. A silent understanding sparked. Perhaps he had faced his own battles. I stand here not just as Sarah, the single mom, but as a reminder that we're all connected. Behind every smile or whisper, there are stories begging to be heard. And I want us to be brave enough to share them. Her words hung in the air, hovering like a promise. And just as she thought she had captured the room's hearts, she felt the weight of the past press down on her once again. Neighbors exchanged glances, some nodding in agreement, while others wore masks of skepticism. Did they believe in her transformation? Suddenly, a voice broke through the crowd. But what about the fundraiser? Is it enough? What if it fails? The question felt like a slap, awakening insecurities that had been buried deep. Could she assure them it would be enough? With a deep breath, Sarah locked eyes with the voice's owner, a woman she recognized from the neighborhood. It may not be enough, but what if we did this together? She knew the audience needed more than just reassurance. They needed action, purpose. They needed to feel ownership in this process. The thoughts swirled in her mind as she sensed Jason shift in his seat. She didn't dare look at him just yet, afraid of the mix of emotions battling within her. The stakes were higher now. It wasn't just about her. It was about a community's belief in each other. Let us come together and figure out what we can do as a team, Sarah exclaimed, her own heart racing with excitement as she felt the crowd beginning to lean in. Was this the spark she needed to ignite change? The air buzzed with possibility, but deep down, uncertainty lingered. Would they truly rally around her? As her voice rose above the whispers echoing in her heart, Sarah took a step forward, ready to embrace whatever was next. The energy crackled, leaving her with a mix of fear and exhilaration. She could either buckle under the weight of doubt or dive headfirst into the tide of support. The audience waited, the palpable tension thick in the air. Would the warmth of community envelop her, or would the sting of betrayal creep back in? Just as she opened her mouth to invite everyone into a discussion about change, a cell phone buzzed loudly in the silence, startling everyone. The phone belonged to Jason. He hesitated, glancing at the screen, then back at Sarah. His expression shifted. "Excuse me, I have to take this," he said, rising from his seat, the room holding its breath at the interruption. She wanted to understand, to dive into that moment, and yet she felt the walls closing in, the truth of their respective stories lingering between them like an unasked question. Was this an interruption or an opportunity? Sarah's heart sank as Jason stepped away, leaving a void where his comforting presence had been. The buzz of conversation resumed in the crowd, but she felt like she was floating in a disquieting silence, a world apart from everyone around her. She forced herself to focus on the next step in her speech, but her mind was tangled in questions. What could be so important that he would take a call now? Did he remember her, or was this just a fleeting encounter for him? She bit her lip, fighting back the swell of emotions. The failure she had feared now loomed larger in the presence of reminders of past dreams. "Let us talk about what we can do together," she began again, her voice wavering slightly. "We can create a community where everyone feels valued and supported." The crowd murmured in response, some showing enthusiasm, while others still wore skeptical expressions. A few people began to whisper among themselves, their anxiety palpable. Every glance was a reminder of her vulnerabilities. Could they really change together? After a moment's pause, she glanced over to where Jason stood, struggling to maintain a conversation on his phone. He seemed focused, but there was an intensity in his expression that pulled her attention in. Who could be more important than what was happening right here, right now? She tried to shake it off, returning her attention to the faces looking up at her. I want to create a network, a support system for parents, a group that stands strong together, she proclaimed. Together, we can rise against the challenges we face. Applause broke out once more, waking her spirit. Encouraged, she pushed further. If we share our strengths, we can build something incredible. We don't have to carry our burdens alone. Jason ended his call, his eyes finding hers again. A flicker of something crossed his face. Was that admiration? Concern? She felt a jolt in her chest, her eagerness blending with doubt. But the room was expanding, crackling with energy. Sarah could feel it. Ideas were being formed, connections were being made. Neighbors began whispering amongst themselves, some leaning forward, nodding, while others were writing notes, perhaps offering to help in any way they could. Encouraged by this, she took a deep breath. What I've learned these past years is that it's not just about ourselves, but about how we can uplift each other. Alone we may struggle, but together, we can overcome. We can find joy in each other as successes. Her sincerity hung there, warm and inviting. But before she could say more, Jason stepped back into the fray. His phone call had evidently ended, but the tension remained. Sarah caught his gaze, an unspoken connection lingering between them. Sorry about that, he said softly, stepping closer, his presence felt even more profound now. The audience seemed to lean in, curious. I couldn't help but overhear. It's powerful what you're saying. A blush crept up Sarah's neck. She quickly shielded her vulnerability behind a smile. Thanks, Jason. I think we can really start something here. But doubts flickered in her mind again. What if they didn't believe her? What if her past shadowed her future? Just as she prepared to respond, a familiar voice called from the back, and what if it all falls apart? It was the same woman from earlier, her skepticism cutting through the hopeful atmosphere. The murmurs returned, the uncertainty festered. Sarah turned, suddenly feeling the weight of her intentions. Did she really think she could do this? We're all scared, she said, her voice unwavering now, finding strength in honesty. But if we don't try, we'll never know. If we fail, we can learn. If we succeed, we grow. The audience paused, allowing the gravity of her words to settle in. She could see the shift in energy. Some faces softened, others furrowed in contemplation. Nothing was certain, but a crack had formed in the wall of doubt. Together, we can find a way forward. Will you stand by me? The room held its breath, her heart racing as she awaited their response. Would they dare to hope? Would they rally around her vision? And as she faced the crowd, Jason's eyes locked with hers once more. An unspoken bond was forged in that very moment, but it was the collective silence she feared. The future hung in the balance, ripe with possibility and unknown paths stretching out before her. Let us take this step together, she urged, clutching her notes tightly, feeling the anticipation simmering. Would they join her, or would she have to face this challenge alone? As a voice from the corner piped up, but how do we know where to start? Sarah swallowed hard. The journey was only beginning, and every step forward would require unyielding faith. Let us figure it out together, she replied, her heart ignited with a new sense of purpose. But deep within, that question lingered: was she ready to lead them, or was this just the beginning of a greater struggle? The silence that enveloped the room felt heavy. Sarah could sense the eyes of the crowd on her, waiting, assessing. The moment stretched like a tightly pulled string, ready to snap. Her heart thumped loudly in her chest, each beat urging her to push through the uncertainty. Jason stepped forward, a steadying force in the fragile air. What if we start with one simple idea? He proposed, his voice clear and strong. What if we share our stories? We all have experiences that shape us. By speaking out, we can find common ground. A ripple of agreement danced through the crowd. There were nods and murmurs of approval, and Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. That's it! She exclaimed, the excitement propelling her. We can create a platform where everyone feels safe to share their journey. We can learn from one another. The noise of chatter grew, a wave of possibility washing over the gathering. As ideas flowed, so did the energy in the room. Sarah noticed faces lighting up, a sense of camaraderie forming as people spoke about their struggles. It was no longer just her vision. It was theirs too. The woman who had previously questioned her raised her hand again, a spark of curiosity evident. But what if those stories are too painful? What if people aren't ready to open up? Sarah took a deep breath, her mind racing. Pain can be powerful, but so can healing. Sharing is the first step to taking control, she replied. We can create a safe space to express ourselves, to breathe, and ultimately to understand that vulnerability is strength. A moment of quiet passed, then a man in the back stood up, his eyes glistening with emotion. I've been silently battling my demons for years. Maybe it's time to let them out. His voice caught on the last word, and Sarah could see the courage it took for him to speak up. The room erupted into applause, a wave of encouragement rising. Now, they were truly engaging. Jason beamed at her, and in that moment she felt like they were not just building a support system, but igniting a movement. Let us start small, Jason said, his enthusiasm infectious. How about we meet once a week to talk, to share, to listen? We can build this community from the ground up. Another voice chimed in, I can help with the logistics. We could use a local cafe for our meetings. Each suggestion fed the fire. Sarah felt alive, a sense of purpose radiating from within her. They were weaving together a tapestry of stories, each thread another life, another truth. Jason caught her eye again, and the chaotic buzz faded momentarily. You're inspiring them, Sarah. This could really work, he said, his voice a reassuring balm against her doubts. But as she soaked in the moment, her thoughts slipped back to the depths of her journey. Could she really guide this ship? Her past made her ache with fear. What if her own struggles overshadowed this mission? Okay, everyone, Sarah called out, her heart thumping steadily again. Let us commit. Let us turn our words into action. Nods and murmurs of agreement filled the space, and she felt the adrenaline rush through her veins. Let us schedule our first meeting right now. Just then, the skepticism struck again as another voice shouted, but how do we keep it going? What if interest fades? Sarah's stomach twisted. A sharp intake of breath was caught in her throat. The room fell silent again, tension holding them all captive. She could feel Jason's presence beside her offering strength, but the question lingered, heavy in the air. With the future uncertain and her heart pulsing with both hope and fear, she cleared her throat. It's going to take dedication, but it starts with us. We have to hold each other accountable, to check in, to celebrate our wins, and support each other through setbacks. The audience leaned in, the collective weight of their stories now anchored in that room. Let us commit to a monthly check-in, Jason suggested, an opportunity to share our progress, our struggles, and celebrate how far we've come. A ripple of approval surged through the crowd as Sarah considered their newfound commitment. It was overwhelming, exhilarating. But just as she felt the resolve solidify, a pang of doubt squeezed at her heart. Could she actually lead these people? Was she strong enough to help them navigate their journeys? The crowd buzzed with plans and excitement, yet deep within, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge lay ahead. As hope shadowed her fears like the flicker of a candle in darkness, she realized she was standing on the precipice of something life-changing. Let us do this together, Sarah urged, her voice infused with a raw determination that surprised even her. But in the whisper of that moment, a question lingered: what would it really take to keep this commitment alive and thriving? The energy in the room crackled with a blend of excitement and trepidation. Sarah stood there, feeling both exhilarated and overwhelmed as the crowd erupted into discussions, each person eager to contribute. She couldn't help but smile. There was something special about that moment, a shared vision sparking to life. Okay. So, let us do this. Jason's voice broke through the din, grounding her. We can meet every Wednesday at that cafe near the park. What's its name? The Coffee Nook? Let us make it our gathering spot. Yes. It has a cozy vibe, someone chimed in from the front, and that settled it. Laughter and agreement began flying around like confetti, a celebration of newfound purpose uniting them all. As the talks turned to logistics, Sarah found a quiet corner to catch her breath. She leaned against the cool wall, the reality of the moment hitting her like a tide. They were going to do this together. She felt supported, yet the weight of those questioning eyes from earlier lingered in her mind like a stubborn shadow. How would they react when things got tough? What if they didn't come back next week? Hey, you okay? Jason's voice interrupted her spiraling thoughts. He stepped into her space, his empathy shining through. I'm just a little scared, she admitted, looking away as a wave of vulnerability washed over her. What if I can't lead them? What if I disappoint them? Jason placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You're not alone in this, remember? We all have our battles. Each of us coming together means we're stronger. Sarah took a deep breath. I know, but sometimes I feel like I'm holding a light to my past. What if it blinds me instead? You're not defined by your past, Sarah. You're shaping a future, he replied earnestly. It's about the journey we'll take together, and how we can lift each other up when things get heavy. After a moment, Sarah nodded, feeling a spark of warmth in Jason's words. Right. We'll be there for each other. We're a team. Exactly, he said, a smile spreading across his face. And speaking of teams, I think we could use some creative ways to keep our momentum going. How about we create a social media page to share progress and updates? As they brainstormed ways to spread their vision, Sarah could feel her anxiety beginning to melt away. Ideas flowed, inspiring even more suggestions. They could host mini events, invite guest speakers, or even do online talks. Just as things started falling into place, a sudden commotion near the entrance stole her attention. A small group of new faces pushed their way in, curiosity etched on their features. Is this the right place for the support group? One woman asked, her voice shaky but hopeful. Yes. You've come to the right place, Sarah beamed, her heart swelling with welcome. There was something beautiful in how their little gathering began to ripple outward, but then she noticed the hesitant look on the newcomer's face, a hint of struggle lurking behind her eyes. Are you sure it's okay for me to join? The question struck a chord in Sarah. She remembered being uncertain, grappling with her own invitation to join a conversation, steeped in the fear of judgment. What if they weren't ready for this yet? What if sharing their stories proved too heavy? Of course it is, Sarah replied firmly, feeling that familiar sense of resolve return. Every voice matters here, and we're all on this journey together. As she spoke, she noticed the room stilling. Everyone was listening, the new arrivals breathing in the warmth of acceptance. Let us be real, Jason added, moving to stand beside her. Everyone has a story to tell, and every story brings us closer to healing. Together, we take this leap. The woman nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. The moment felt significant, a real turning point for the group. They were not just finding their own footing, they were building a bridge for others to cross as well. The fear that loomed in Sarah's chest slowly began to transform into a thrill. What if we become a safe space for people who feel lost? She pondered aloud. Then we'll do it, Jason said, excitement lighting up his expression. We'll weave together our stories and form a community that stands strong. As they locked eyes, a sense of purpose sparked between them, igniting a fire that felt unstoppable. But even as hope flooded her senses, the question remained: how would they navigate the challenges ahead? Sarah's heart raced, sensing the weight of the journey that lay just beyond reach, waiting for them all. The weeks rolled by, each gathering at the coffee nook turning into something vibrant and alive. Sarah walked into the cafe every Wednesday, a sense of excitement building within her. She could see the familiar faces, warmed by the camaraderie they were nurturing. Each meeting felt like a stitch binding them closer together, weaving their stories into something beautiful. But deep down, Sarah still felt those flickers of doubt. As inspirational as the group had become, she worried about the weight of honesty they were all carrying. Would the stories they shared push some away? Would their vulnerability be met with misunderstanding instead of support? During one exuberant session, a young man named Daniel stood up to share. His voice shook at first, a tremor bubbling with emotions. "I've been through some dark times, and for a long time, I felt lost," he began, glancing around at the expectant crowd. "But this space, being able to speak freely, has started to bring me back into the light." As he shared his story of heartbreak and recovery, the room remained silent, every eye fixed on him. Sarah felt a swell of admiration, but also the palpable scream of her own insecurities. Who was she to lead them? She watched as Daniel's voice grew steadier, each word transforming pain into strength. "Thank you for creating this," he concluded, wiping away tears. The applause that erupted felt like a hug from the entire room, and for a moment Sarah's heart soared with pride. They were building something real. After the meeting, Jason crossed the cafe to find her. "What has got you in your head?" he asked, his brow furrowed in concern. "I'm scared," she admitted, pushing her hair behind her ear. "I thought I could keep encouraging them, but what if I falter? What if they look to me and see someone unworthy?" He took a breath, scanning the bustling cafe where laughter and chatter intertwined. "Sarah, look around. They look to you because you're not afraid to show your heart. You don't have to be perfect, you just need to be real." She closed her eyes, drawing in his words. It wasn't about being the strongest leader. It was about authenticity. It was about accepting her imperfect journey, with all its dips and valleys. In the weeks that followed, they introduced new ideas, like getting together for workshops or potlucks. They grew closer, but Sarah still struggled internally. Each time they invited a new speaker, she wondered if the community could handle the heightened emotions that came with deeper stories. And then, one fateful night, Sarah received an unexpected email. Someone wanted to share her story, a woman named Lisa, looking to tackle issues of grief and resilience. Her heart raced. Would this be too intense? Was the group ready for this? She hesitated before shooting Jason a message. "Are we prepared to dive deeper?" she asked. He replied almost instantly, "We'll navigate it together. This is what we've built." With reluctance and hope tangled together, she agreed to Lisa's appearance. But as the days drew nearer, so did the weight of her decision. On the night of Lisa's talk, the cafe was packed. Attendees bristled with energy, yet an undercurrent of tension rippled through Sarah. She glanced around, nerves unraveling as laughter filled the room. Then Lisa stepped in, her expression serious yet filled with grace. "Thank you for having me," she began, her voice steady but soft. "I'm here to share a story of loss and of finding a way back to light." Instantly, all eyes turned toward her, but Sarah felt her breath catch. Would this be too raw? What if it derailed everything they had built? And what if Lisa's story ignited something far deeper than any of them were prepared for? As Lisa delved into her journey, emotions swirled like a storm, a mixture of heartache and soaring hope, but Sarah had no idea yet what reflections awaited. What would happen if someone's truth brought them face to face with their worst fears? Lisa's voice resonated through the crowded cafe, her words wrapping around everyone like an embrace. "It was a bright autumn morning when I got the news," she said, her gaze distant. "They say the world can change in an instant, and mine did." There was a quiet hush, every person leaning in, faces drawn with empathy. Sarah felt the warmth of their collective breath, a gentle support, yet the tension shimmered in the air. She could see how Lisa's story was drawing them together while simultaneously placing a heavy weight on their hearts. "Grief isn't just sadness," Lisa continued, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "It's a transformation. It took everything from me, every joy, every light, but in the ruins, I found pieces of myself I didn't know existed. It was terrifying and beautiful all at once." Each word held the room captive. Sarah's heart raced as she watched the audience absorb the depths of Lisa's pain. She felt a flicker of hope mixed with overwhelming anxiety. What if, in reaching deeper into their souls, they risked getting lost in their own darkness? Several attendees gripped their mugs tighter, some wiping away tears before they fell. There was an undeniable beauty in the rawness of Lisa's truth, presenting an invitation to explore their own vulnerabilities. "After my husband died, I thought I'd never smile again. I thought I was broken, Lisa said, pausing to gather herself. Then her tone shifted, gaining strength. But slowly, I realized that being broken doesn't mean being defeated. We can bloom from the ashes. Sarah could feel the collective inhale in the room, as if everyone were holding their breath. There was a silent agreement that this moment was sacred. It was both powerful and fragile, like glass, and Sarah struggled with the paradox of it all. When Lisa finished, the applause erupted like a thunderous storm. As tears flowed freely, Sarah couldn't resist the swell of emotion inside her. The way the community surrounded Lisa felt like a protective barrier, allowing tenderness to embrace the hard truth of life. As Lisa took her seat, Sarah's heart swelled. Maybe they could handle deeper stories. Maybe vulnerability was a weakness, but a powerful door leading to understanding and healing. She took in a deep breath, preparing to address the crowd. Thank you, Lisa, Sarah started, her voice trembling slightly. Your journey shows us that it's okay to feel lost. We're all in this together. There was a warmth in her chest, fueled by the openness of the moment. Jason caught her eye, giving her a supportive nod from the back. She felt a rush of gratitude for him and for the community they had built together. But the moment of connection was abruptly interrupted as a stranger raised their hand hesitantly. Can I share something? Their voice cracked, filled with a mixture of fear and courage. Every head turned towards the newcomer, and Sarah's stomach dropped. She never expected someone else would want to share so soon after such a profound story. Was the cafe ready to dive into yet another heavy revelation? Lisa, still glowing from her moment, gestured warmly. Please, we're here for each other. As the stranger stood, Sarah's chest tightened, her mind racing. With every eye now trained on the newcomer, Sarah felt a tremor run through her. Would this lead to heartache? Or hope, once again? What was about to unfold could change everything. Would they emerge together untouched, or would someone's truth unravel the delicate tapestry they'd woven? The stranger stood slowly, visibly trembling. A deep breath filled their chest as they scanned the crowd, trying to find a familiar face, but all they saw were curious eyes, a mix of compassion and uncertainty. The cafe felt oddly captive, stretching time into silence. My name is Mia, the stranger began, her voice barely above a whisper. And I haven't shared my story with anyone before. Sarah's heart raced. Would Mia's journey echo the depths Lisa had just shared, or would it veer into darker territory? Mia's eyes glistened, betraying the weight of her unsaid words. It was 2 years ago, Mia continued, her breath shaky. When I lost my son. The confession hung in the air like a heavy fog. Gasps rippled through the audience, an immediate wave of empathy crashing over them. Sarah's heart sank in resonance with Mia's pain, a pull she could feel deep in her gut. When you lose a child, the world becomes this impossibly dark and lonely place, Mia said, her voice gathering strength with each word. I spent months just existing. A flicker of fire ignited in her eyes. I dimmed the lights in my life, thought they'd never come back. I didn't want to talk or move, I just wanted to curl up and disappear. The room was still, breaths held tight in throats. Sarah couldn't believe how raw and genuine Mia's sharing was. Each heartbeat echoed like its own confession, a collective exposure of hurt held for too long. But then, something changed, Mia said, determination creeping into her voice. I began to see signs, little things that reminded me of him. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but a smile replaced the sorrow in her expression. A butterfly fluttering by, a laugh I overheard that sounded just like his. And for the first time in a long time, I felt him urging me to live again. The weight of her struggle transformed, the audience leaned in. Sarah could feel the shift, like light breaking through dark clouds. That's when I realized Mia looked directly at Sarah, finding a connection in her eyes. That happiness and heartbreak can coexist. It's possible to carry the love and the pain together. They let each other in, like old friends. A simple understanding spread through the cafe, one that sparked quiet nods and whispering reassurances of the audience. Mia pulled in a breath, her voice stronger now. I started a support group. It was just 5 of us at first. She chuckled, an almost joyful sound amidst the shadows. We met every week and it turned into something beautiful. Instead of mourning alone, we found strength in one another. Applause gently bubbled up, each clap a heartbeat in solidarity. Sarah felt her own tears rising, overwhelmed by the beauty of shared suffering finding its way towards something hopeful. Instead of fading, Mia concluded, she paused for effect, a slight smile pulling at the corners of her lips, a fierce force of inspiration. The room erupted in cheers and applause, voices mingled with tears of joy and empathy. Sarah felt the atmosphere electrify, a collective rush of healing. Mia's story shifted something within them all, a reminder that life continues, that they all hold the power to rise from the ashes. As the sounds of clapping faded, Sarah stood on the edge of the emotional tide. She knew this gathering had transformed them. But now, she wondered, what other stories live among them? The night felt pregnant with potential revelations, and she could almost taste the anticipation hanging in the air. Jason's gaze met hers again, but this time, there was something else a challenge. "Are you ready to share your truth?" he seemed to ask silently. Mia's words echoed in the back of her mind, fierce and inspiring. But as Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she might reveal next, a thought lingered. Was her own story ready to be confronted? The cafe remained alive with energy, and Sarah knew something special was about to unfold. Compressed in her seat, Sarah felt an electric pulse radiate from the heart of the cafe. The warmth of the crowd enveloped her, yet her own thoughts were tumultuous. Mia's journey spilled across the room, wrapping around her like a thick knit blanket. But here, in this moment, Sarah felt exposed. The words were heavy on her tongue, yet the courage that filled the air both terrified and thrilled her. A silence settled, punctuated by the echoes of Mia's truth. It was as if every breath in the cafe was synchronizing, waiting for her to begin. The spotlight shifted. She could see Jason leaning in slightly, encouraging her without saying a word. What was holding her back? Then she thought of Lisa, of her struggles, and the thoughtful journeys they had walked together in the shadows of pain. It had felt so freeing, sharing just the pieces, like placing tiny shards of a shattered mirror on the table, allowing them to reflect the light. Taking a quick glance at Mia, who was adjusting back into the crowd, Sarah realized she wasn't alone. All their stories mattered. "Okay, here goes," Sarah murmured softly to herself, and it felt like the gathering itself was holding her hand. The weight of uncertainty felt lighter as she rose from her chair. Sarah's heart raced fiercely with every step she took toward the center of the cafe. "I'm Sarah," she started, her voice steadying amidst the soft chatter around her. "I haven't lost a child, but I've lost a lot. I've lost my sense of self, and it's felt like 1,000 little deaths." The words poured out, fueled by an urgency she hadn't expected. "I lost my sister 2 years ago. To addiction. It was like watching the moon slip into a shadow. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't pull her back into the light." The crowd's breath caught, each person leaning closer. They shared the weight of her sorrow, her vulnerability stark in the glow of the cafe lights. "I remember the last time I saw her," Sarah blinked, a lump in her throat making it hard to speak. "That day, I thought she was okay. But she wasn't, and I'll never forgive myself for not seeing it sooner. I let her slip from my fingers." A wave of sorrow swept through her, intensifying the heaviness she had carried alone for so long. Deep breaths mingled with the hope that someone, anyone, could find connection in her pain. "But just like Mia said, even through darkness, I found flickers too. I found community," she stressed, glancing at Mia with gratitude. "I started volunteering at a local shelter. I met others who have walked similar paths, and through their stories, I started to see my own darkness in a new light. It wasn't a cure, but it helped me heal." The lights in the cafe seemed to shimmer with understanding as the audience listened, nodding in silent agreement. There was power in shared experiences, strength in vulnerability. "Though I still mourn my sister every day," Sarah admitted, "I have learned that we can honor those we've lost by living fully. By seeking help, by reaching out, and by understanding that we are not alone." Applause erupted. It felt like the walls were vibrating in unison with the hearts of those present. Sarah's own heart surged with pride. As she stood there, her voice tremulous yet fierce, she fumbled for the next thought. I want to remember Angela and build something in her honor. Something that breathes and grows. You see, I might never truly heal, but I can embrace my pain, let it write my story, just like Mia did. But as her words wrapped around the room, a heavy silence fell over them. A memory, grazing the edges of her focus, tugged at a hidden truth waiting to emerge. What if her resolve to rise was challenged next? What if her sister's struggles held secrets she had yet to uncover? Just before the cafe could erupt with revelry, Sarah hesitated, the shadows of her past wrapping tighter around her heart. But what if I told you there's more to her story, a truth that might change everything? The air thickened, charged with anticipation as Sarah's words landed in the hush of the cafe. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her hesitant revelation. This was her chance to share, not just to grieve, but to empower and to unravel a story that had long lived in silence. There's something about Angela's struggle that many don't understand, she continued, her voice steady yet vulnerable. It wasn't just addiction, it was the isolation that came with it. The shame, the secretive whispers each time I reached out, it felt like she was a step further away. But I wish I could have broken through that wall. She could see the listeners leaning in, hearts resonating with her authenticity. There were nods of empathy, reflective tears in the eyes of those who had faced similar battles. I now realize that family and friends can't carry the burden of guilt or shame, she said, feeling the fire building within her. We must fight together, not just to support, but to create a voice for the voiceless. A murmur swept through the cafe. It echoed the understanding of a shared pain. What if we could break that fear wide open? What if we offered a space where honesty isn't a burden but a badge of courage? The room buzzed, and Sarah could feel momentum rising, like the swell of an unforgiving tide. She was no longer just Sarah the single mother, she was Sarah, a mother who understood what it meant to be both vulnerable and fierce. I've had moments where I felt I could drown in that grief, she confessed, but in this space, I've found that every story shared is a lantern for someone lost in darkness. Jason's eyes sparkled with encouragement from across the room. This was their mission, their community, and together they could cultivate hope from the ashes of despair. As she shared more of her sister's struggles, the need for awareness ignited stronger in her chest. Angela would have wanted us to create understanding, to speak out, Sarah urged. Not just to help ourselves, but to guide others who may not feel they have a voice. Each revelation carried with it a collective sigh and understanding that their own experiences intertwined with hers, creating a powerful web of connection. Tears of recognition grew in the eyes of others as they began to draw parallels. Sarah could feel it. There was a lightness in their shared sorrow, a flicker of hope sparking from her words. We can create workshops and discussions focused on not just the individuals battling addiction, but also the families navigating through it. Let us bring light to the conversations that often remain unspoken, she declared, her passion charging the atmosphere. Applause and cheers erupted, a symphony of encouragement echoing through the small cafe. Sarah felt exhilarated, her heart swelling with a newfound sense of belonging among the crowd. With a smile as radiant as the hope filling the room, Sarah turned to Jason. With your help, we can build something beautiful, she said. Let us create a true network, a community that supports kids, partners, everyone affected by addiction. An alliance against the stigma. Crowds of voices joined together now, excitement clamoring as neighbors chimed in their own ideas. Let us host events, a voice called out. Maybe even art therapy or yoga. Another added. Sarah could feel the collective power surging from the group, fueling a purpose that would thrive. They were no longer carrying burdens alone. They were lifting each other up. As laughter intertwined with the crowd's chatter, an undeniable happiness blossomed. In that moment, Sarah realized that she had become the fierce force of inspiration she so desperately wanted to be, transformed by her struggles, healed through connection, and empowered by the love surrounding her. Let us take this leap together, she cried, her voice soaring above the thrumming excitement. Let us honor those we've lost by standing strong. Together, we can rise against the tide. and as they cheered, she felt a sense of closure wash over her. The past would always be a part of her, but it no longer defined her narrative. Together, they were stepping boldly into a future wrapped in hope. Now, as you reflect on how Sarah turned her heartache into a rallying cry, think of those who may still feel lost. Do them a favor. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Help us spread the message. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring conclusion. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your actions matter.